This course can strengthen your imagination and design thinking by seeing other forms of work. From participating in the creation, you can learn new media tools and methods of showing information. Understand the unique collections of the digital age. You can take this as a beginning and gradually structure your own system of knowledge through the new media era. Timely participation strengthens opportunities that transcend space-time, both surreal and extremely real. When you have the chance to observe up close or virtually own special rights to an artwork, the interactive effects of virtual technology, the learning-driven experiences, and the use of art education in everyone's life. We will now upload the 3D object we created on the Smoothie 3D platform to the Sketchfab platform for exhibition. So, we must first find the 3 files we just downloaded and compress them. After selecting the JPEG, MLT, and the OBJ files, right-click them and select the 7-zip file compression software to compress them. We compress them into a zip file. After completion, we will change the file name to BIRD, bird. Now we use Sketchfab's upload tool to upload. Select Upload. Choose Browse. Select the bird.zip file. Start. Upload file. During the upload process, we can edit the file's name and its textual description, category, and its tags. Let's open the text that's already been prepared. Copy and paste. The description content, copy and paste. Of course, you can also edit the textual description part. Now select at least 2 categories: animals and pets, and art and abstract. Choose and fill in file tags to facilitate classification and search. We used Smoothie 3D to create it, so we click on the Smoothie 3D category. Of course, you can also use its name to classify it. After you complete this, on the right, you can see that it can be seen by anyone on Sketchfab.com and that it isn't age-restricted, and it can be freely downloaded. Now we set it up to save and publish. After we complete its publication, we can click to inspect our 3D model. When loading is complete, you can see that our 3D object can be browsed and inspected in the window. When you scroll down, you can see that it has its name and textual description as well as its classification and tags. The tags. Basically, after you click them, if there is anything that corresponds to the label, it will display content related to the classification type of the label and 3D objects made with Smoothie 3D. After you click here, you can also see that corresponding label content appears. This is all very helpful for us learners to understand this kind of classification and the preparation of related materials and doing relatively quick browsing actions. On the Sketchfab platform, we can use 3D settings to make our 3D object look more refined. Select Edit 3D Settings. After entering the editing window, we first select the shadowless display function. Then we select Post-Processing Filters and turn on Post-Processing Filters. Then we turn on the shaded functions. After opening the setting details, you can adjust their strength to give them a richer look. Next, let's turn on sharpness and open the detailed sharpness settings and adjust it to make the textures appear in more detail. Select bloom to make its textures appear to have a faint glow and create some different feelings. Once you are finished, choose Save Settings. Leave the editing window. The first steps of refined editing are complete. We can use the sharing functions of Sketchfab to share our completed 3D model to social platforms to share with other people. Look for the share function in the middle of the page. Press Share. Select the social media platform we want to share to. Let's first select Facebook. We create a post in our Facebook feed. After you finish the comment, you can publish it to Facebook. Now we have completed sharing. We can use the Sketchfab mobile app to see what the AR effect is like. Select our account and in Your Information, click on our 3D object. Check over the appearance of our 3D object. Normally, the effect of its display on the app is the same as viewing on a web browser. But if you use AR, it will completely turn off the post-production effects, returning it to its original state to reduce the burden or augmented reality. Choose AR. Set the plane. After you click on the desktop, set the size of the object and adjust its height. Adjust its angle. Now we can capture a picture of it and complete an overlapping of the virtual and the real through augmented reality. Okay. In this unit, we learned how to upload 3D models to the Sketchfab platform and how to use functions on the platform to give 3D objects a more refined presentation. Also, we use the Sketchfab app to create an overlapping presentation of the real and the virtual through the augmented reality function. Now, we have 4 questions for each of you. First, in terms of augmented reality, AR, which of the following is true? A, it is a technology that uses virtual information to augment real space. B, it adds virtual objects to virtual space. C, it attempts to replace the real world. D, it creates a stronger immersive experience. Next, according to the description of the Sketchfab's app's AR function, which of the following is false? A, it must detect a level surface. B, the size of the AR model cannot be defined at startup. C, AR post-processing effects can be displayed for display performance. D, only ARKit released by Apple can be used. Next, as for the correct use of tags, which of the following is false? A, they improve user experience. B, they do not help search efficiency. C, they must be related to the published content. D, They artificially aggregate pages with similar content. Lastly, as for sharing on social media, which of the following is true? A. Social media cannot replace deadlines of traditional media, editing, printing, and delivery. B. Users weaken groupthink by forming groups themselves. C. It splits up the function of setting issues of traditional media. D. It completes the task of digital convergence independently. Hello, everyone. So, I am sure that each of you has some digital platform accounts, whether Gmail or social media. The first thing I want to share with you is that the use of digital platforms is now actually very common. All platforms actually are connected to each other. As they are connected to each other, actually on them, whether it is an interaction between people or they are being used for study or the collection of information. Actually, everything on them is continuously copied and expanded. So this actually is something that everyone has become used to happening in their lives. Maybe you have a Gmail account or a Facebook account. Now, even your Facebook and your Instagram can be linked to your Twitter or other accounts. Then actually, in the process of learning or in your life, these accounts will maintain a certain connection with you. Actually, they are all closely connected. Because of this, actually, in your life, in addition to making it easy for you to connect with others, some accounts like this also create some special circumstances. That is, the so-called emerging social aspect is created. Actually, because of the establishment of digital media, everyone's utilization of such platforms has become more and more complete, and they use them more and more. That means that the time you spend on it grows longer and longer. Of course, each person will create a platform that belongs to them to show to others. Your account might give people some impressions, and your image and highlights are important information that the commercial market needs to actively collect. They will create some target ads to market to your type of image. This all happens in the background. So maybe, in a situation you aren't aware of, you have allowed it to collect some of your information to create some commercial value. But this stuff is actually generally accepted by the public, because in many aspects of your life, there are links with this stuff. So you have to slowly come to terms with how, in the digital age, as your use of digital platforms continuously increases, your information might continuously be exposed and leak. Of course, many hold a positive attitude and ideas, as the increased information that you get from them also helps you improve and learn. In the future, privacy protection will expand more and more, including the so-called digital media platforms. Then actually, we will receive protections. Maybe some would say that now many platforms can create so-called self-media, on which individuals can express ideas. As for the so-called right to speak, when you have enough influence, your voice will be stronger, so it will no longer be a situation where an individual's remarks are insignificant. You need to pay special attention to your personal information on these platforms. Of course, many information platforms use social media platforms to make connections. Of course, they have some degree of information sharing. So you have to pay special attention to whether these platforms use personal information properly. In the future, you will have to know some important points of personal information protection in the digital environment. Of course, some learning on the internet is very timely, and you can share at any time. So, in this state of far-reaching proliferation, your personal learning performance will continue to advance and develop. Actually, compared to the past, this is very different. This, for this new generation of learners like us, is a type of challenge. Because there is too much information. Actually, we become distracted. Doing some appropriate collection and focusing will help you develop in your learning in the future. Now, platforms of digital content are very diverse. Because we commonly use the internet, there are many free and open source resources. They are actually very common. With the creation of this kind of digital content, actually everyone has to understand how to make a so-called digital intellectual property rights protection mechanism. The best protection mechanism is sharing. Why is sharing the best way to protect digital intellectual property rights? It's because when you share on a platform, no matter whether it's social media or on a website, after you post it, it will leave behind a digital footprint. This footprint contains a timestamp and a so-called record. These processes can be a source of intellectual property rights for you. This way, if you encounter theft in the future or the possibility of copying, then you can use this sort of post and fight for the rights you should have. Also, digital platforms are very diverse. You can produce a lot of digital content, whether 2D or 3D. It's different from the past where we used pen and paper to make those sorts of traditional media creations. What's most interesting is that it is produced in a digital virtual environment. That is, it is published and shared in a digital virtual environment. So actually, everyone will gradually get used to this kind of creative platform and then use this kind of display of creative content. So people will use, for example, virtual reality headsets or those control devices and then draw in a virtual space, or maybe just using the mouse or a stylus and drawing on the tablet, then sharing on a platform. Actually, in digital media, these are all common ways to create digital content. Some people even use their phones to make videos and then share them on YouTube. Actually, this is a pretty good way to disseminate a work. Of course, this kind of creation and release will make it easy to transmit and share. After a while, you actually will become a content creator of the digital age. Actually, are emerging so-called job titles, like the so-called YouTuber, are guides for this kind of an identity. Identities like digital painter have also appeared. Of course, for many users, it will create good commercial aspects. So everyone will come to know these kinds of jobs better and better. Of course, the so-called participation will become higher and higher. And I encourage everyone to try more platforms to create digitally. This sort of digital creative behavior actually is very helpful for our future accumulation of information knowledge or for our accumulation of works. Many students have the same question. They say that they don't have a background in art or that they don't have artistic talent. So they ask how they can do digital creation. It seems like you have to learn for a very long time to be able to enter this kind of creative field. Actually, it's not that way at all. Many of you might often see some people sharing some digital content on the platforms you already use. Actually, it's not about how advanced their technique is or how great of a performance it is. Instead, what's important is a willingness to share. This is very important. As long as you are willing to share, of course, now due to this sort of immediacy and proliferation of internet media, everyone can evaluate each other's works, and some people will give you some suggestions. You just need to be willing to make continuous corrections, or you can participate in some groups. That is, some technology groups or some sharing groups. You can do some consultation this way. Actually, many netizens are strangers to each other. They will also give you some assistance. If you have some difficulties, sometimes you might not be able to get immediate responses or answers from your teacher. You can search for answers on the internet. This is actually different from the past. That is, we often say, you couldn't just Google it and find answers, especially for software platform operations. They aren't really that easy to find or see. Maybe when you are using this type of platform or function, it's something that is uncommon or it hasn't yet become popular. Of course, then, the informative resources you could get would be relatively few. But if you look in related professional communities, there's a relatively higher chance that you can get some immediate informative support. So be good at using online resources and social platform resources. Behind all of these information platforms and behind each account are netizens, real people. Of course, they have some experience that they can possibly share with you. But in this situation, sometimes you might get an answer every time you ask a question. So you need to first create psychological appeal. Maybe you asked in the wrong way, or maybe you haven't looked ahead to see if somebody has asked a similar question and you haven't seen it. I think you should first have a good understanding of the internet, or the etiquette of asking questions on the internet. This is very important. Secondly, in the past, when I was studying, actually I didn't at first come into contact with digital media. I actually studied fine arts. I worked with traditional media. In this kind of experience, actually now going from traditional media to digital media, the only thing that hasn't changed is the cultivation of aesthetics and aesthetic understanding. All of the aesthetic experience you gain while creating traditional media is all beneficial for your growth. So now, suppose you want to start investing yourself in digital media. All of the aesthetic knowledge you have accumulated, that is, the media that you have seen or readings on basic theoretical categories of creation, assistance that you have gotten from teachers at school, and discussion and sharing with experienced friends or peers that do digital creative related work can all help you learn. I think that this kind of studying is positive and active. It's an effective way of acquisition. The third point is what I just mentioned. Sharing is very important. In addition to helping you reduce the chance that your rights will be infringed upon, sharing can also give you more room for growth. Through sharing and accumulation, you can then, in the future, do some assimilation, and then make more adjustments and corrections. Actually, a path of self-improvement shows very clearly. If you keep reviewing and moving forward, you will walk your path more and more firmly. So, this is what I have to share with you about my experience for your future digital studies in digital areas. Thank you.